Hi there people, here I am speaking out of my spare room this time rather than the living room. Little change of scenery, but I've got the things set up, thought I'd knock out a quick video. I'm going to continue talking about differentiation and differentiated instruction, and I'm going to continue that for the next foreseeable few clips. Possibly not the most popular topic I've tackled, but I think at the end of the day that's not the most important thing. I do feel that these videos will be helpful for people that need them when they get to working with the area of differentiation. And differentiation is a tricky one. It's something that needs a little bit of conversation, a little bit of deeper conversation to penetrate the concept, going backwards and forwards, playing about with ideas. And one of the reasons I set this channel up was so that I could basically rant a little bit, or at least ramble about various topics in a little bit more depth. So that's what we're doing. Now, in the last clip we looked at fragmenting a class to help a group of struggling learners, and also creating what I was calling adjustable aims. Aims are a little bit flexible that allow students to complete those learning aims and for us to complete our teaching aims relative to where they are, but also getting them in the same direction. That was the last clip. If you haven't seen it, I recommend having a little look. Today, I'd like to talk about what I call pop-up tasks. First of all, though, we need to distinguish the difference in a class between the logistics and the learning that's going on. These are two very important elements and they do affect each other. The logistics is basically the events management side of the class. Keeping the group going, keeping everybody behaving, doing what they need to do, basically. That's logistics. That's events management, classroom management. The learning that's going on is something different. That's what is happening in people's heads and the words and sentences in English that they're taking away. Now, the logistics will certainly put a ceiling on the learning that's possible, for sure. But they're not identical. And sometimes I feel that teachers get confused between the one and the two, especially when they're talking about differentiation. Let's take an example of advanced learners. Learners, and by that I don't mean learners who are at C1 or C2 level. I mean in any class, the students at the higher end of the language ability. What I sometimes read or hear is the sentence, I will deal with fast finishers by giving them an extra worksheet. Now, if we unpack that, there are several problems here. First of all, we're assuming that a fast finisher is an advanced learner, I think. And that's not always the case. I'm sure you know of a student in your class who finishes very quickly, but doesn't cope with the language task very well, probably makes a lot of mistakes, rushes through it, and really needs to be calmed down, sent back, and asked to have another look at what they've written. So that fast finisher is not an advanced learner. They might be a struggling learner, but they're flying through things without really taking a lot of care or getting the idea of the task. The other thing is that if somebody finishes something quickly, as well as not necessarily finishing it well, what is the aim? Are we just trying to keep them busy? So we give them another worksheet and another worksheet. Now, keeping people busy, again, that is logistics. That's classroom management. We're keeping them busy so they don't get bored and they don't start causing problems or messing around. It has nothing to do with learning. So fast finishers and fast finisher worksheets, fine. I'm not saying that They're not things that happen or things we have to consider, but that's not the same as the learning. It's not the same as providing extra challenge to advanced learners and making sure that they're actually learning more or learning relative to themselves. That's different. So what we need to do is we need to look not at how quickly people are working, but how easily they're coping with the language task. That, yes, is in the area of the learning journey rather than the logistics. In order to do that, in order to make sure that an advanced learner is challenged and is that they also learn something new, what we really need to do is to have established in our mind some sort of hierarchy of language functions. What I mean by that is that there are some things that are easier to do with language in a given area. There are some things that are harder to do. For example, let's think about vocabulary. Imagine students are learning vocabulary from a page. The easiest thing to do probably is to connect, link, identify, match is the word I'm looking for, to match pictures with words by a process of elimination and looking at cognates, which words look the same in their own language. More difficult is to remember words without looking at them, with maybe only a picture prompt. More difficult is to be able to remember words with some sort of time limit and time pressure to produce, which is what we have when we're speaking in conversations in a foreign language in real time. More difficult than that is being able to use those words in sentences, drop them in with the correct surrounding words, collocations, and grammar. So these are basically, this is knowing words. These are basically the different levels. Ding, 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 ding. If we're talking about listening, being able to hear a single word, yes, that's important. It's probably here. Being able to hear strings of words and phrases is here. Being able to hear how the speaker is pronouncing words and appreciate where they're missing parts of words or words where words blend together is probably here. Again, we're getting this hierarchy of functions. I'm going to explain a little more how this plays a very practical part in our lessons. Let's go back to the vocabulary. Let's imagine that the students, they have their book and they're doing exactly that. They're doing a vocabulary task and they're matching 20 words, let's say 20 fruit and vegetables, to 20 thumbnail pictures of fruits and vegetables. That's the base task. And we have a look around and we can see that there are a couple of students that have either finished this very easily or are going to finish it very easily because we know that they already know those words. So what we can do for those is say, okay, stop what you're doing, don't worry about the base task too much. I want you to do something slightly different. I want you to, one of you is going to cover the words and then you're going to point at the pictures and the partner is going to need to name the pictures. If you want to make it easier, they could cover the pictures and then point at the words and they have to say that. Anyway, let's say they're covering the words, pointing at the pictures for their partner, and their partner has to say the words. We've taken it to the next level. We've given them a task. It's a differentiated task. It's a task that's adapted to students who might find the base task too easy. And that takes 10 seconds to explain to them what to do, and away they go. Like I say, they might be students who finished the base task, and we can see they've done it really easily. They might be students who we know will finish the base task very easily, and we've just moved them on. If everybody else catches up and they've all finished and we need to move on, rather like the peloton, the mass of riders in the Tour de France catching a couple of riders who've broken away and reabsorbing them, then fine. It doesn't matter. We've lost nothing because there was no real preparation. It took 10 seconds to set up. It is a pop-up task, very quick to set up, and it can fold down again. So we've lost nothing. That's what I mean when I'm talking about a pop-up task. And depending on the students and the level of the students, we can give them harder things to do. We could say, okay, so you two have finished that first task, or I can see you're finishing it very easily. So I'd like to ask you to do something slightly more complicated. What I want you to do is to cover the words, point at the pictures. You've got to name the pictures, but you're trying to do it as quickly as you can because you are also going to time them with a stopwatch. So now we've introduced that element of challenge, of speed. Or the next step in the hierarchy of functions, we finished this task, teacher. Okay, yep, looks like you've got them all right. Okay, so close your books. Yeah, you two, close your books, yeah. Okay, there were 20 fruit and vegetables. You have 20 fingers and thumbs between you. Use them to try to remember all of the fruits and vegetables on the page from memory, if you can. That's a challenge. Okay, so now they're recalling from nothing. Again, that's the next step. Or we could give them a little bit of word detective work. So, finished, teacher, great. What I want you to do now is to work your way down the list and cross out any letters that you think are silent letters. And if you're not sure, you can use your mobile, go online, have a listen to somebody saying those words just to check. Obviously, no WhatsApp, Instagram, etc. Or finally, we could ask them to create some survey questions with those words in that they can ask everybody else afterwards. Again, no, we would specify, you can only have do you like once. Make the questions interesting and varied. And then they're working to try to put those words in the sentences. Those are all examples of differentiated tasks and what I call pop-up tasks that we've created. None of those will take any preparation, and none of them will take longer than about 10 seconds to set up. And so we could set up a variety of these things in the moment. I think differentiation is about what you do. It's not necessarily about staying up till 2 a.m. the night before creating graded worksheets. It's about these small interventions as well. How would this work with listening? Well, according to our hierarchy of functions, let's say we've given them a listening task and they're listening for specific words to fill in gaps in some sentences in their course books. We planned on playing it to them twice or 3 times. After the first listening, one student, he's just sitting back, I've got this. Oh, you've got all the answers? Yeah, teacher, I don't need to hear it twice. Okay, what I want you to do is try to write down the sentence that the speaker says after the sentence with the answer. See if you can get down as much as that and write it in underneath the gap sentence in your book. So now we've given them the next thing. Or, what I want you to do is that in the answers, I want you to just cross out any letters that you think the speaker doesn't pronounce. So they're listening for elision and assimilation in the speaker. So this is more detail. We're taking that listening to the next level within the same task. So, again, this is what I'm saying with pop-up tasks. And these pop-up tasks are designed to add a little bit more challenge and take the advanced learner to the next level without necessarily increasing their workload. We're making the task more complex, but also the reason the task is more complex is we're hoping that it's going to take that advanced learner to a place where they're going to learn something. Now, we have all sorts of tasks in the classroom. We have all sorts of areas of language. We have grammar, we have writing, we have reading. So we need to ask ourselves for each of these, what's the next level? I've got this activity, but what's the next thing we can ask people to do? And that will give us, hopefully, a range of small pop-up tasks that we can introduce in the moment. And that very much is differentiation at work. And if you do some of these, I would say make notes about how it worked. If you do some of them in an observed lesson, if you're on a professional development course, make sure that you draw the observer's attention to those afterwards. Kind of, did you see what I did there? Because, as I say, that is definitely differentiation at work in the lesson. That was 15 minutes. That was a concept which takes a little bit of explaining. I hope it's useful to you. And if you have any doubts or questions about it, please hit me up in the comments. Strength and energy with your teaching.